I did a lot of writing since I've last spoken to you. I wrote an introduction to counselling and psychotherapy from theory to practice. That was published by Sage in November. And I wrote that very much from a practitioner perspective. So I know, there's people like John McLeod's book, which, is a tour de force, I think. So you couldn't replicate that. So I was thinking, well, what could I do differently? So writing that paralleled me having a trainee supervisor group. So all the questions that they asked and all the things that were coming out in supervision, I tried to capture in the book. So that took an awful lot of time. I'm still, right at the heart of my work is clinical practice. So I still see lots of clients writing. The training workshops, particularly the ones on working with suicide and working with self-harm, getting all over the country, meeting some really interesting people. And I'm lead author for Counselling Minded, which is it's through BACP, but it's a Department of Health funded project for developing e-learning resources for counsellors working with children, young people and young adults. And they will launch in March next year, and they'll be free to access. So it's really exciting times.
So there's a lot been going on since we last talked.
Yeah.
And I think the Minded thing is really interesting. To have that much free CPD online sounds great.
Yeah. I actually typed the web address for it in the chat room, so if people want to find out more about Counselling Minded, they can do, but not just yet. Yeah, just don't rush off and do something more interesting just yet.
Yes, stay with us in the chat room and with the video. So that'd be great if you can put that in the chat room, Andrew. Oh, fantastic. Thank you. And of course, you can see the chat room. Well, you've just typed in it. And you're really up for comments and questions that people have around your work. And
challenge, I really enjoy the challenge in the debate. So, if I say anything that you disagree with, get writing.
Yeah. So we're up for a bit of controversy as well.
Yeah. Sunday afternoon, why not?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've just got an hour tonight, so I know we'll only be able to squeeze in so much, but if people want to check out some of your resources, just below the video window is the books that you were describing. So if anyone wants to click on the books, they can get straight through to Amazon, have a look at them, and also to think about your website if people would like to plug into your workshops and spend a little bit more time thinking about both of these subjects, suicide and self-harm, because they're significant topics to be working with as practitioners.
Yeah, I think the topics that we all face in our work so very regularly. I've been delivering these workshops now for a good few years, and each one is different. I come away having learned so much from different people's perspectives too. It's not a model specific workshop. It's designed to just get you thinking and reflecting on your own practice. So yeah, I love doing them. Apologies for the website. If you look at my website, it's clunky and amateur, but it kind of says what it needs to say. One day I'll try and get somebody who knows what they're doing to do a better job.
Yeah, sounds like it does the job that it needs to do.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, for the moment.
Well, I think one of the strong themes in the book, and when we were talking earlier, you said that it can be controversial in the workshops, is thinking about self-harm as a process that's around for all of us as humans, not just as practitioners, and thinking about those processes and knowing where they are in us, that being really important.
Yeah. When I thought of writing the book, just to give a bit of context for the book, this book is in a new series. Kirsten Amis, who's based in Glasgow, is a series editor, and there's 4 books in the series. The self-harm book that I've written, there's one on research, one on student counselling, and one on loss. And they all follow exactly the same structure. So, Kirsten's being quite hands-on in sort of guiding the development of the books. So, we look at sort of theory and skills, anxieties, strategies for managing our professional anxieties, impact on clients, a bit of research. So I was having read an awful lot about self-harm over the years. I was really struck, I think, by a lot of the literature, not all of it, but a lot of the literature literature, really creating a demarcation between people who self-harm and then the rest of us who are okay. And I feel really uncomfortable with that and don't agree with that as a concept. I see self-harm and self-injury as sitting within the same frame, but also two slightly different processes. Self-injury being the things that we might traditionally associate with sort of the notion of self-harm. So people where they cut or burn or ingest sort of toxic substances, things like that. And I see self-harm as a broader spectrum that would include self-injury. But would include things like disordered eating, perhaps excessive tattooing or body piercing or bleaching, overwork, working too much, people who spend hours in the gym to the point of fatigue. And so I really wanted to take a broad perspective on the process of self-harm and say, actually, when we think about it, I think this is something that we can all relate to. We can all relate to times in our lives when we respond to our distress or difficulty by doing something which is perhaps about a communication or about a dissociation. And I think as therapists, as counsellors, if we can reflect on and relate to our own self-harming process, that can really help us develop a psychological connection with our clients.
Yeah. So it's starting at home and with ourselves and how we are. And there's a little vignette in the book where you gave an example of a therapist who works all week and then sees private clients all through the weekend. Just that massive amount of work, but in a way separating themselves or dissociating themselves from their own distress. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think counsellors are really good at subscribing to the notion of self-care, but when push comes to shove, aren't always good at doing it. And I certainly include myself in that. I'm not throwing stones in glass houses here. What I don't say is that all our behaviour is potentially self-harming, or every time we have a glass of wine, that's self-harm. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying is that I think we can all relate to doing things which are harmful to ourselves as a means of coping with distress or difficulty or vulnerability or grief or loss or anger quite often. And then we need to look at that as a spectrum of behaviours, and that can help us connect much more with clients where self-harm is part of their discourse, part of their narrative, or where self-injury is part of their narrative too.
Yeah, so when we're with clients, we're not seeing that as an alien other, something that we have no idea about.
Yeah, definitely. And just to pick up a question that Lizzie has asked about, do I see personal therapy for counsellors as vital? Yes, I do. In conjunction with other things, I see supervision as vital. I see contact with colleagues and peers as vital. CPD as vital. I see walking on a beach and doing something that is very self-caring and self-reflective as vital. And if I'm recognising distress that is really beginning to impinge on my capacity to connect with someone else, then I would see personal therapy as vital too.
Yeah, so a range of things from the beach to the therapy room. We need all sorts to support us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There was another question there early on about maybe talking about the triggers, the issues of self-harm clients can cause counsellors. So I'm not quite sure about the question, but something about triggers, is that?
Yeah, definitely. In a sense, all of our work as therapists is about helping our clients increase self-awareness, and that will be self-awareness around sort of